I'd like to say I'm pretty good at obsessing over characters. Anaxagoras, Kazuma Asogi, Rance, each of these have altered my brain chemistry drastically and have rightfully made their presence known on my channel in some form. However, there's been a certain character who hasn't really received proper spotlight here despite being my favorite character ever. Of course, I'm referring to the one and only, my beautiful wife Elysia from Honkai Impact 3rd. Folks, today I'm finally here to change that. Although, as you could tell by the title and focus of this video, I will be approaching this in a different way. Allow me to explain. Enforce has had me gripped by the skull ever since the initial Golden Epic trailer due to, well, as I'm sure you could guess, Cyrene. And with the release of 3.4, I'll admit it, okay? The brain rot is terminal. So today, I want to take the time and reflect on what I will call the Cyrene experience. It has been a never-ending ride of emotions ever since her initial reveal. I'm at the point where I'm convinced if I don't document it somewhere, I might actually explode. So yeah, here's your spoiler warning that this will cover Amphoria's content up to 3.4 in HSR. And while I won't be dropping infinite massive spoiler bombs for HI3, I will be mentioning events that are relevant towards discussion of Cyrene, so just keep that in mind. There will be spoilers, even if not necessarily big major ones. Without further ado, let's begin. So let's look at the very beginning. November 22nd, 2024. Just an average Friday, or so I thought. I wake up randomly, I check my phone while I turn over in bed. What's this? Multiple people telling me I need to watch the latest HSR trailer? This seems rather urgent. I guess I'll take a look before I go back to bed. Dear viewer, there is absolutely nothing in the world that could have prepared me for the emotional roller coaster of this trailer. As a proud, die-hard enjoyer of the 13 Flame Chasers from HI3, alongside having the Elysian Realm plus To the Flawless be my absolute favorite story arc of all time, I'm sure I don't need to describe the unbelievable amounts of joy this entire trailer gave me. Of course, the pinnacle of it all, for me, was witnessing Cyrene for the first time. I need you guys to understand this, okay? Up until that point, I had never expected for HSR to actually feed me Elysia content. Considering the, let's just say, unfortunate circumstances of the Flame Chasers in HI3, I kind of just brushed off the idea that HSR would choose to create variants for any of them. Look at these screenshots, man. I am completely oblivious. I thought I was safe. Well, yeah, obviously, I was wrong. And thank God for that, am I right? At this point, I realized, god damn it, HSR is going to have me in its clutches for a long time, isn't it? Jokes aside, it all felt so validating as a loyal Elysia enjoyer. New official artwork alongside attracting even more fan art, a new design to appreciate, maybe even more than one, new merch, another story to cry over? I'm sold! So naturally, more Amphoria's content kept dropping. And as someone with a very normal amount of brain space dedicated to the Elysian Realm arc, I latched onto all callbacks and references to it, and how they were hinting towards Cyrene's existence and role in HSR. For instance, Mem. Depending on who you ask, Mem being Cyrene kind of felt like an open secret almost from the start. Firstly, this sequence gives a fairly strong impression of Cyrene being tied to Remembrance Trailblazer's power, which of course involves Mem. In the Keeping Up with Star Wars video for Remembrance Trailblazer, just listen to Mem's greeting in Japanese and how it compares to a certain someone's voice.
Mimi? Mew? Hi, Minna? Hi. Kibun wa dou?
Yeah, not very subtle at all, huh? In terms of vibes and, as we'd soon find out, role in the story, Mem felt very similar to Elf Elysia from HI3, which just further strengthened the idea of Mem and Cyrene being one. However, even if it was quote-unquote obvious, the feeling of watching it slowly unravel itself throughout each patch was still really exciting in a way. For instance, even at the start, the way Mem would talk in the As I've Written or other story bits felt so reminiscent of elysia/Elf Elysia's speaking style. As her speech pattern developed further, I just kept constantly being smashed in the skull with the realization, oh my god, this is really Elysia, man! Like, just hear these two clips, okay?
そうなの。私もびっくりしちゃった。もしもし？もしもーし。もしもーし。もしもーし。うん、テスト完了。やっぱり私の声は素敵ね。
During the 3.0 through 3.2 time frame, while the Mem equals Cyrene theory continued to become more solidified, a bunch of question marks still hovered around Cyrene's involvement in the grand scheme of Amphorius. For instance, all we knew is that the actual Cyrene, supposedly, had been killed by the Flame Reaver during Finon's childhood, which on its own leads to even more question marks when considering, at this point, Finon being the Flame Reaver was already pretty popular speculation. Now, at a very basic level, the idea of Finon being the one to kill Cyrene isn't too surprising, when, considering how in HI3, it's fairly likely Kevin was the one who killed Elysia. But, of course, that doesn't necessarily answer why Finon/Flame Reaver would do it in the first place. But even if HSR itself hadn't provided many answers, HI3 gave a lot of different ideas to mess around and speculate with. For one, we have Elysia's role in HI3. One aspect of her is that she loves humanity so much, to the point where she sacrifices herself in order to become a beacon of hope in a way, which allows humanity to escape the vicious cycle of the Honkai. Hey, that's the name of the game. To put it simply, in other words, Elysia is the entire reason why everyone in HI3 Part 1 can even receive a happy ending. Of course, I'm simplifying her story here for the sake of this video, but I'm sure you get the idea. So, this led to thoughts like, what if Cyrene's role in Amphorius is similar in some way? After all, I forget where exactly this quote is from, but Stu states how in all the universes he witnessed a variant of Elysia, she would always choose to sacrifice herself for humanity. It's clearly a core part of who she is. It made thinking about Cyrene's involvement much more interesting to me, because I just knew they would tie in this aspect of Elysia's character somewhere for Cyrene as well. Then 3.3 dropped, and it was absolutely life-changing. Various confirmation of theories like the As I'm Written book and Terex be involved with Cyrene, more than one line of dialogue, a CG appearance, Mem blatantly sounding more and more like Elysia, all of this leading up to the first appearance of her model in-game, at the very end, with True playing in the background? The song from the hit animated short Because of You, which clears every anime ever produced? Oh my god! Can it get much better than this? Will I be allowed to feast on more than just chromes and theories tonight? Up to this point, as you can tell, a lot of the discussion surrounding Cyrene has boiled down to, well, theories and expanding on the very few crumbs that existed up to this point. Like, somewhat using Elysia's personality and existing dynamics as a starting point, I like the idea of Finon and Cyrene having a close platonic friendship, just like Heaven and Elysia. Another example for expanding on practically non-existent crumbs, Elysia is the one responsible for the 13 Flame Chasers coming together, and due to her whimsy and personality, she has a genuinely strong bond with all of them. So, what if Cyrene could have a similar presence for the Chrysosairs? Of course, while it would be very unlikely for her to be their actual leader, I would still rotate around the potential interactions between her and the other heirs, like bonding with Anaxagoras over Dromas, being a fashionista girl boss of Aglaia, toying around with Cypher and allowing her to steal her own goods. You get the idea, I'm sure. I did mention how Mem grew to talk very similarly to Elysia, and with how apparent the Mem equals Cyrene theory came to be at this point, you could say that Mem still allowed for Cyrenation, aka, well, me, to not completely fall over and starve. However, it's just not quite the same, you know? Until Cyrene herself was on my screen, dropping life-changing lines, I couldn't sleep peacefully. I love Mem. I truly do. I think she's absolutely adorable, but it's not the same. Even before proper beta leaks and the drip marketing, 3.4 was speculated to be the final release patch. This led to a new source of copium. Would it finally allow for Cyrene to be physically present? I mean, if her death was relevant to the start of Finon's journey, surely she might appear in some form? Could this patch really live up to my expectations? Well, dear viewer, considering the existence of this video, I'm sure you can guess the answer. Yes. Yes, it did. It really did. For extremely obvious, not totally biased reasons, 3.4 instantly became my favorite Amphoreus patch thus far. It watered my crops, filed my taxes, saved my marriage, cleaned my house, fed my children. Well, cat. You get the idea. This quest served so hard. If I listed all the moments I loved from this quest, I would practically be recapping the entire thing. So instead, I'll just cover some of what activated my neurons the most. First, while the idea of March and Cyrene interacting isn't shocking by itself, when considering how even prior to this, we knew they both have ties to remembrance, the feeling of actually seeing them together on my screen, bonding over being strong, cute, pretty pink girls, oh my god, that's my wife! Cyrene has the same type of whimsy and charisma that drew me to Elysia. Next, Cyrene having the exact same arms behind back and leaning over pose as Elysia just sent me to the moon. She looks so cute! I vividly remember pointing at my screen just being like, oh my god, she did the thing! While we're on this topic, everything about her model and animations is just so cute. The little winks, her sleeping pose, seeing her on the swings at various points, which, not only is extremely cute, but also brings back more HI3 memories too. Her head turns and pretty smiles, feeling so similar to clips from Because of You. She's so precious, it makes me want to explode. In general, all of her dialogue is truly a fine course meal. Marina Inoue is an absolute queen, whether it be her iconic
Hi! Hi!
or
Hi! 私に会いたくなった?もしかして、私が恋しかった?
she's truly so iconic. I similarly loved all of her silly banter with the Trailblazer and Finon. Cyrene is so full of whimsy. She's such a sweetie. It could bring me to tears. I also loved seeing her be snippy with Lygus. Like, yeah, screw that guy. Remember how we talked about the idea of Cyrene sacrificing herself? Yeah. While not surprising whatsoever, the reveal still felt impactful as hell to me. I mean, it follows suit with exactly what Sue said, and even Cyrene herself admits it. She would always make the same decision to sacrifice herself for the sake of others, no matter how many cycles it's been. Come on, man. Can I have a single character in this franchise who wants to live? Okay. Obviously, I'm joking, but this has always been one of my favorite aspects of Elysia's character. The tragedy of a girl with so much love inside of her, yet she willingly chooses to tear herself from what she loves most, the people surrounding her. Of course, the Mem and Elf Elysia comparisons and parallels were already apparent even prior to this patch, so nothing here is truly shocking, but I would like to give an honorable mention to how Mem's quote-unquote farewell is so deeply similar to Elf Elysia's. Their circumstances as characters and what their roles are even similar too. This probably sounds silly, but I don't care if it's predictable or uninspired. I love experiencing the various references or parallels to the Elysian Realm arc here. Like, god damn it, man, it's my favorite story arc of all time. It almost feels like I get to relive something so dear to me, and I'm not gonna complain about that. Lastly, for now, I'd like to talk about the Cyrene hangouts at the end of the quest. After an unbelievably intense trauma dump session from Finon, being able to frolic around with Cyrene was the best! Elysia deeply treasures the concept of memories. It's why the Elysian realm exists to begin with. I was thankful to see Cyrene feel similarly. Her dialogue is so sweet, yet there's still just a slight melancholy surrounding everything she says as well. Talking with her tugged at my heartstrings so bad. Please, let me create memories with her! Prior to 3.4, I had already been pretty adamant in, okay, after Trippy rerun, I'll save everything for Cyrene. But man, actually experiencing the quest just reinforced me so much more. The wait for a next patch, everything following it, and of course her eventual release has been tearing at me so unbelievably bad. For instance, I'm dying so bad to see how her role will develop in the story. Like, if she'll get to interact with the Priceless Hairs and fuel all the besties propaganda I've put stock into. You know, hey, why do her sleeves look like the nukes? No, really, why? Of course, perhaps most importantly, will she sacrifice herself again in front of my salad? Also, it's fairly likely that when Cyrene does become playable, she'll have a new design as well, especially when considering how she looks in this bit of the Nameless Faces trailer here. As I'm sure you could guess, I'm unbelievably excited to see what it is. I am not joking when I say that I will draw it non-stop as soon as it drops. Naturally, even beyond a new and shiny design, there's also the other exciting aspects to becoming playable. You know, Eidolon icons, lightwork artwork, battle pass icons, combat animations, a trailer. Considering how popular Elysia is, I'm sure they'll work overtime on her animations especially. Maybe we'll even receive an animated short. Of course, there will naturally be an influx of artwork to celebrate her release as well. I've already noticed a huge increase of Cyrene artwork ever since 3.4 drop. But you can imagine how insane it'll be as we get closer to her becoming playable. It's going to be an amazing time to be alive. Well, I think that's about it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. While you're here, do the cool YouTube stuff. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Twitter because it's the social I'm most active on and I retweet lots of good art. Trust me, I also post my own artwork. Lastly, follow me on Twitch too so you can catch whenever I go live. Okay, enough plugging. Once again, thank you for watching and I'll see you around.